So I guess we'll start up this last segment. We're going to give it about 5-10 minutes. It's our stock up, stock down. We're halfway through plus a match of the season. I guess I can start with a pretty easy one. I guess my stock up for the season probably as a team side probably is Bournemouth, seeing that I just waxed poetic about every single player on the team except for Ouattara. That is also a phenomenally young, gifted player. I do really love them. I think that they're on the right trajectory. I think a team like Brighton gets all the plaudits for buying well and selling well. And I think a club like Bournemouth goes under the radar. And I think if you really look at it on paper over the last 3 seasons, I think Bournemouth actually achieved more than Brighton has. Yet Brighton, I think, gets the fanfare because we all talk about how wonderful it is to watch them play, but we don't talk about how wonderful the results are because more times than not, Brighton finds a way to draw matches they should win, right? And lose some that they shouldn't even draw. So for me, I think my team stock up would be Bournemouth. If I asked you a team on the rise, a team that you would put your money, your Bickler coin in, where's that coin going?
On the rise, this is tough because I'm probably late to the ball game here. This is like the 1 week I didn't prepare for this, and you pulled this out of your hat, you son of a bitch, and we haven't done it in any other segment. I feel like you knew that. This is late to the party. Right? Late to the party, so I'm late to invest in this team. But I always said I need to see more from this team before I believe. I need to see more. So I am going to come late to the party and buy now on Forest. I think we talk a lot about Chris Wood. We make the jokes we make there. But I think we don't look at the players like Milinkovic, who anchors that back line, and so many other players in that system who have just really solidified who they are as a team. I talked about how I expected some sort of regression just because the goal differential wasn't there. But we've seen this side consistently close 1-goal gap games and close it and continue to close it and then beat teams like Wolves where they need to with clean sheets. So I'm bought in on them as a club collectively right now.
Yeah, I like that shout. I think, Nuno, if we were putting a stock in a manager, I think you'd have to put some stock in Nuno at this point. He's done a great job, solidified their back line, created, they went out last January, I think it was, and they purchased Sells to solidify their goalkeeping area after making the mistake of investing and putting so much stock in Matt Turner. And you see it with Chris Wood. You see it in their counterattack play. I mean, Gibbs White is a machine. You bring in a guy like Ward-Prowse. He creates,
There's many interesting pieces. We always talk about Brighton's ability to sort of bet in South American talent, but we don't even talk about this Nicolas Dominguez, who was considered a right up-and-coming Argentinian talent that never really caught hold anywhere, and he's just quietly playing lights out. From a stat perspective, it's nothing that from a box score standpoint, to use an American term, it's going to really pop out. But when you watch it, you can just see these sort of players that are so far under the radar to the casual that really make this team work. It's just really kind of interesting and fascinating to watch.
Yeah, and they're getting good play. They're getting good play out of the wingers and Alanga and Hudson-Odoi, which is just funny because it's other big clubs, not small. These are big club castaways, and these are
Gibbs White's Arsenal,
great. And these are youth products from these big clubs that have been, kind of bandied around the Premier League. And I just feel like you just have to tip your cap, in my opinion, to Nuno and what he's doing. So we'll stay on the manager. Let's go stock down. If you stock down in a manager, they're losing their value and no longer something that we're putting Bickler coin into.
I'm not going to butcher his name, but the manager at West Ham is definitely there for me, right? I mean, that.
Yeah, Lopetegui.
Yeah, to me, he just seems like there just seems to be a disconnect between what he wants to do, the parts he has, and he seems more important, like he's lost that side. When you watch the communication, they look like they're just nodding to get him to go away.
There's reports that basically he's fired and he knows it. He took training session today, but it's just really that they're And the reports are is they finally just kind of come to grips. They're going to be the club to give Graham Potter the rehabilitation tour. And it's not a bad appointment, in my opinion, if they're willing to give him time to bet in a system. He proved he can manage at Brighton. He also proved at Chelsea that he wasn't ready for a big club and big expectations. But a club like West Ham with players like Somerville and Paqueta and Bowen, and you have a base of hard workers like Sufal. They spent so much money. Suchek, they spent so much money in the summer on the defense. So I mean, if Graham Potter can get a system in place and can figure out something at the number 9 position, is Fulkrug the guy? Can you do, obviously they really miss Antonio. Glad to see that, he's still with us after that horrific car accident, but I would be shocked if we ever see him play again in the Premier League. But the talent they have in that side, Kudus, it's there for someone to mold. So Potter could be a good one. If I were I would have said Lopetegui. I think another manager that you just have to put the stock down on at this point, it's Ange. And I understand he's a good guy and everybody likes him and he can sit at the desk and say mate in his best Australian accent and everyone kind of gets giggly and giddy. It's like when one of these American coaches makes a really bad joke and the whole media corps just laughs in unison. You're like, that shit wasn't funny. Why are we all fucking pretending that it was funny?
You mean like every Miami Dolphins press conference?
Pretty much, yeah. Dolphins press conference, an old college basketball press conference. Every single press conference Tiger Woods has ever given. But I think when you look at what Ange is doing at Spurs, how quickly it's gotten away. I understand they've had some injuries. They really have been decimated at the back. They lost their keeper. They've been playing without any form of center backs. You're paying a 17-year-old kid who shouldn't even be a center back playing at center back at Spurs. And you're yanking off the international that you signed in Dragusin at halftime because he's just so poor and not up to speed in the league. And yet the man can't alter his plans, can't change anything. He's yanking his club captain. He's sitting Madison from the jump. Like, it just feels like he's lost it. I genuinely feel like he has the month of January to get them to the League Cup final. And if he doesn't, he's probably out. Am I too critical on Ange? Do you think he's going to get more time? Or do you think his days are almost done, but they're so close to a trophy now, only Jose Mourinho would get fired at this point?
No, I don't think that's too harsh. I think when there is I think there's a difference between being unable to make change and being change resistant, right? And I think what we are kind of figuring out with him is that he's unable to make change. And I think that's the real problem here, right? Like, if he was just change resistant and he just needed, to either find the motivation to change or have a real reason to do it or have somebody in the front office pushing towards, be one thing. But I think what we've just seen within matches is that the changes that he makes are just, he tries to make like for like changes when it's like not the pieces that are the problem. It's the actual system, which leads me to believe that that is just not going to work for him. I think it's a combination of like a system that he is unwilling and unable to change, and the fact that the pieces that are part of it may not be the pieces he needs to do that. But I just don't know if he knows enough about what he has to actually make those calls correctly.